Hello everyone, welcome back to some more of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Last time, let's see what happened last time. We started case 2, the Memoirs of the Clouded Kokoro, where, well, first thing we did was we're basically going over what happened, like, the day after the trial of the Clouded Kokoro, the original one. This is just the day after. The victim in that trial, Olive Green, woke up, but as we were talking to her, Natsume essentially called us in, saying that there was another murder. And here we are. Sholmes, we came, looked around a bit, Sholmes did one of his great deductions, and that's where we are now. Because, unfortunately, he made a few mistakes. So, yeah, I guess with that being said, let's kinda get back into things, right? Alright. There, I'm just trying to fix something up. I'm still looking for a voice changing app or something like that that works with OBS. Because it would be really easy to just click on and off stuff when it comes to like voices. Yeah, well, I have to look and see if I find a free one or something like that. Whatever. Anyways, I guess it's gonna get started. I decided to do this because I noticed that last time I spoke way too fast for the great deduction, so whatever. Anyways, let's start straightening out Sholmes' deductions. Alright then, let's see what we can do. Yes, we must pick out the keywords in Sholmes' quite brilliant deductions, and discreetly exchange them for something that makes a little more sense. If we can do that, I'm sure we'll arrive at what Mr. Sholmes meant to say in the first place. In that case, are you ready for the second performance of the day? Once again, my dear fellows, for your continued delight and wonder, let the curtain rise for Sherlock Sholmes' Logic and Reasoning Spectacular, Act 1. Oh yeah, even his pipe changed, I think, didn't it? With the costume, I mean. Alright, so this first topic is the cause of death again. Let's reread stuff, because this is a new episode. Careful observation of the victim reveals to us the events that transpired in this disconsolate room last night. Foam at the mouth of the deceased clearly indicates the use of poison. Next to the victim, we notice a large dining plate, which contains, you will observe, 1/2 of a sizable bar of soap. Meaningful? Indubitably. Why is this soap set so purposefully upon the dish? Like the victim's last supper, in fact. Yes. Could it be that the man was about to eat it? Of course, the fork reveals the answer. Well, you can't deny that a fork implies the man was eating something, or about to eat something. Yes, that's true. If I were to decide to eat some soap, I actually prefer to use a fork than to attempt it with chopsticks. Use a spoon. That way, it cuts easier. And of course, only half the bar of soap is left on the plate. But might there be some other explanation? Something material that proves whether or not the man really ate some soap. I don't know. Oh, what is... Oh, that's a hat. Okay. I don't know. A teacup? Do you think he was drinking tea with his soap? The cup's empty, so there's no way of knowing. Ah, how about this for an idea? Perhaps the cup was full of water, and he was dissolving soap in it so he can gulp as much down as possible. Please remember that he might not have actually been the soap lover he's made out to be. Okay. Did he really eat soap? What am I looking for? Oh, what is... Other piece of soap. Look, there's more soap on the floor here. Mr. Shamspeare must really have loved this stuff. Let's not jump to conclusions, Mr. Naruhodo. Look closely at this soap. Do you see that it would fit together perfectly with the half bar on the table? What the... How can that be? I think that they are two halves of the same bar that broke apart. Oh. Okay, I guess this has to be it.
Take that!
Yes, it is. Ah, look at Ryunosuke's outfit, looking good. Could it be that the man was about to eat it? Of course. The other piece of soap reveals the answer. It being there, the other half of the soap on the table, in short, the victim was not eating soap at all. But it's obvious, really, for no depths of hunger could drive any man to attempt to eat soap. Oh, what's that? Oh, I thought something was behind me there. Anyways. Even I, with my unquenchable thirst for practical knowledge, took only a single bite. But that begs the question of how the man was poisoned, because there's no sign of any food on the table. An excellent observation, Mr. Naruhodo, and one that furnishes us with the answer that we seek. For London's foul soap is besmirched by foul poison. Yes, the victim's life was claimed by poison that tainted the contents of the plate. Mrs. Sholmes is still pushing the soap argument then. Perhaps he's suggesting the man licked the soap rather than ate it? If soap in London is that poisonous, I don't think I want to be washing my hands with it. But there are no signs of any food in this room at all. Of course, food isn't the only thing that passes people's lips, is it? Ah, the teacup. That's right. Put a drunk in it. Yes, a Western vessel for the serving of infusions of dried tea leaves. It's a teacup, Mr. Naruhodo, as you well know. Stop putting on airs. And it's empty. Ah, so we've already established that the victim wasn't eating soap when he died. However, there's significant evidence to suggest that he was drinking tea. My thoughts exactly. Oh, no.
Take that!
Okay. I mean, this is the first deduction, so I guess it has to be easy, doesn't it? Yes, the victim's life was claimed by poison that tainted the teacup. Indeed, cups have been the vessel of choice for practicing poisoners over the centuries. And it would appear that this victim drank every last drop. There's no sign of food anywhere in the room. Which leads us to the immutable conclusion. The cause of death was clearly intoxication due to the ingestion of poison contained in this teacup. So someone poisoned his glass of tea. The cause of death identified, we proceed to Act 2, where we ponder the next question. Was this suicide or murder? The audience will recall that the death occurred during the victim's last supper. Did the man dine and die alone? This single teacup suggests the answer. Ah, Western vessel for infused hot drinks again. It's already featured heavily in our deductions so far. Yes, we can imagine that shortly before his death, Mr. Shamspeare was having a drink of tea. There would be nothing remarkable about that, but what troubles me is Mr. Natsume's reaction when he heard Mr. Sholmes suggest it. There's more to this deduction than it seems. We must closely examine the scene of the crime again for some more clues. Okay. Oh, there's a stain here. Can I... Excuse me? Why does he have two teacups? Oh, he didn't dine and die alone. It's another one Sylvester for is a teacup! And it too is empty. Given that he's actually holding one in his hand, we can assume that this is the cup from which Mr. Shamspeare was actually drinking. But if that's the case, this changes everything. Everything we've deduced up till now is turned on its head. I have a bad feeling about this. I almost don't want to say it. Yes, I know exactly how you feel. Alright.
Take that!
Did the man dine and die alone? This teacup suggests the answer. Yes, there were 2 teacups in this room all along. In other words, this is a strong indication that at the victim's last supper, there was a guest present. Yeah? You're gonna use Mr. Faraday's Mr. Fairplay's model? At the very least, we can now say with certainty that somebody else was here in this room last night, taking tea with the victim. What are you talking about? Utterly, unbelievably, unjustly, unreasonable. To draw a conclusion on such meager evidence would be foolish, however, certainly. In which case, what more can we deduce about this possible guest at the table? Well, allow me to lift the veil of doubt, my dear fellow. Do you mean to say you know who exactly was in this room at the time of the victim's death? Indeed. What reveals the answer, of course, is the broken lock. I'm not sure I like where this deduction is going now. I'm afraid it's too late to go back to the halcyon days of eating too much soap. But the identity of the guest who was in here last night when the victim passed away is something I have a very bad feeling about. Well, you can try to ignore your feelings, but we cannot ignore the truth, Mr. Naruhodo. No? I suppose not. Time to look around again. Cool. We obviously know that Mr. Natsume broke the lock, but... Oh dear. The latch is most definitely broken, isn't it? The door was kicked in by Mr. Natsume, according to what Mr. Garrett told the inspector. Who knew his short, thin little legs had so much strength in them? I'm not sure the length of his legs is in any way significant here. Perhaps this says more about the poor state of the door than about Mr. Natsume's strength, actually. Careful. If you overheard that remark, he'd certainly have a lively response. I don't know. Can this broken lock really tell us anything about who was here? Well, what else does? There's the pile of books and an empty bottle. That's about it. What does this do? It's empty. Empty of liquid, but full of air. That makes you think, doesn't it? It makes me think that you're full of hot air. You should be thinking about who else was in the room at the time. Jeez, Susato, okay. Bother. Susato-san's quip in response was cleverer than my original riddle. Okay, then the books. At first glance, it seems that the only things in this room are makeshift stage and the costumes. I overlooked these 3 books initially. I wonder what they are. Let's see. The titles read The Picture of Monsieur Lecoq, Canterbury Yearnings, and A Meal for Gaboriau. Yeah, the same books as... Wait, I'm sure I've heard those titles before. It could just be an incredible coincidence, but they're the exact same 3 books that Mr. Natsume purchased the other day. What? Yes. On the day of that unfortunate incident when Miss Green was stabbed. Soseki-san had just been to a bookshop and bought them. That's right. And now those 3 titles are here in the room of the victim. Yet Mr. Natsume claims to never have been here before. What does this mean, do you think? I really don't know what to make of it. Okay. Well, that means he was here. Well, obviously he was here. He's been reacting ever since we came in here.
Take that!
Indeed. What reveals the answer, of course, is the pile of familiar books. Quite so. It is no mere coincidence that these 3 titles are here in this room. It is the link to the truth. Mr. Natsume, You purchased these books 4 days ago at the second-hand bookshop. That's just a coincidence. In that case, you will be able to bring these same 3 titles from your own room, will you not? This very moment. No, never, non-negotiable. If you can't bring your own copies here, it proves that these 3 books are in fact yours. Having purchased the books 4 days ago and returned to your lodgings, you were arrested the very next day. So you could conceivably have brought the books here on that evening, but you never mentioned that. In other words, you could only have brought these 3 books here to the victim's room. Gee, yeah, just gonna have a moonwalk back to... Last night, having returned to your lodgings after the trial concluded at the Old Bailey. In short, there is only one possible conclusion. The victim died here in his room last night as a result of poisoning. And that same night the victim had a visitor. And that visitor was you, Mr. Soseki Natsume. Thus concludes the final act of Herlock Sholmes' Great Deduction. You can already see the great deductions in this game are a lot better than in the first. Instead of just having us walk around and view stuff, now you get actual scene. It's actually like a show. You'll see a lot more, I think. We'll have a lot of fun with these deductions. Not again. Not again. Not again. Well then, Mr. Natsume. It would appear you're gonna have to accompany me back down to the yard. Again. But wait! Hold your horses! Yes? Door! Key! Locked! That's tree! Exit! Entirely impossible! He's so flustered he's being even stranger than normal. What? You think that's an alibi? You could have just made a copy. What? You live in the same building after all. You'd have had plenty of opportunity, I'm sure. But... Misery me! Sorry, sir. You'll get your chance to give your side of the story later. The facts speak for themselves, Mr. Mustache. You horrible Herlock Sholmes. He really has found himself an arch rival now, hasn't he? Come on now, no dilly-dallying. Outside, there's a carriage waiting. Welcomes to Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. I never imagined I'd be in this position again, but you have to help me, please, please. I'm innocent. All right, I understand. We'll come to your cell later and talk about it. And one more thing. Oh, yes. My poor little kitty cat. Please, give him his breakfast for me. And so, his evil curse still apparently unbroken, Soseki-san found himself once again the prime suspect in a case of murder. Thanks to the incriminating deduction of the great detective. My dear fellow, that honor belongs to you. Well, at least that means Inspector Gregson is no longer here. We can examine the crime scene in more detail now. Yes, that's right. Ah, and of course. What? have you forgotten what the inspector mentioned before? It was the landlord, Mr. Garrideb, who discovered Mr. Shamspeare. Ah, Mr. John Garrideb, yes. I expect that we could find him in his sitting room on the top floor as usual. Right. We must remember to go and talk to him later then. Alright. Well, I guess let's look over... What is that? What's this? It looks like a part of an envelope, I think. Yes, I think you may be right. Perhaps it was torn off when the letter was opened. Is that significant? Well, it's a little out of place perhaps. When you look around the room, there's no sign of a letter, or the rest of the envelope in fact, is there? Ah, she's right. And yet, here we have the torn off end of an envelope. It just strikes me as unusual. I agree. We better take this just in case. Alright. I guess let's just look around a bit more. Very much to look at. Ah yes, Great Britain's famous brick windows. As we've seen from the outside, the window is completely bricked up. A vestige of the former window tax that Britons had to pay. What strange things they used to tax in Great Britain. I mean, making people pay for the number of windows they had in a property is extraordinary. It's heartbreaking to think of the poor having to block up their windows just to avoid an unaffordable tax. Oh! What is it, Mr. Sutto? If you look closely, a number of bricks are loose. Oh yeah. Yeah, bars of soap. Oh yes, looks like as though an amateur has broken out a few of them just here. Was it Mr. Shamspeare who did it, I wonder? Being the lodger renting this room? Ah, look at this, Mr. Naruhodo. On the outside, there's a little ledge, and there's something on it. What? Outside? What is on it? Ah, it's so cold outside. You can feel it through this gap. It did snow all last night. It would be cold. But more importantly, what is it on this ledge out here? What are these snow-covered lumps? It's more bars of soap, yeah? Does this man have a soap addiction? Soap? What are bars of soap doing lined up on a ledge outside the window? I have no idea. But the pair of them look rather charming like that. Still, that's very strange, isn't it? Bars of soap lined outside the window. I think perhaps we should take one. There are two, after all. Oh dear, I suppose we could. Oh, what's this? Look here at this soap. Ah. Do you see? In the middle there, there's a patch that's a different color. It's also transparent, but some sort of fancy design, I suppose? Only in Great Britain. It looks like the Hinomaru flag of Japan, doesn't it? How wonderful. It's probably a very expensive brand. An expensive brand? Then what's it doing in this ramshackle old room? Yeah? Alright, well, let's actually look at the soap, because it'll be pretty important later. Let's look at the envelope first. Didn't bother with a letter opener. Unrefined temperament. Right-handed, yeah. Too much of it, never. Whatever. Anyways, this is what we're after. This little thing on the side here. I don't know how they thought of it as... Oh, it's a... What's it called? An emblem of the brand. I mean, look at this. This is clearly... This is clearly a piece of ice shoved in here. This part is a different color. It's an exquisite design, isn't it? Trust the British to turn a boring bar of soap into something special. I quite like it. It reminds me of the Hinomaru design of the Japanese flag. I expect this is rather expensive soap. That doesn't seem likely given who it belongs to. Whatever. Let us continue. Do we have a map? Oh, we have a receipt of the books. Huh. Oh! Okay, that's nice. So we actually have some of the evidence from the other case. That's actually good. This is another important thing I think we'll have to remember in the future. And here we have another disproportionately large machine. And it looks like a meter of some kind. Ah! This is a gas meter, I think. It seems that in this district, residents pay for gas as they use it with coins. Ah, I see. Yeah, now that you pointed it out, I can see that there's a slot here that looks like it would take a coin. So you mean, if you put a coin in here... That's right. That would buy you about 2 hours of gas for lights and heating. So, if you were a poor person with no money, you'd have to sleep in the freezing cold? Yes, or if you were a scatterbrain with no change because you forgot to exchange your money at the bank. Thank goodness there's no meter in our office. Wait, then couldn't... all it takes is a coin? Then, by that logic... Okay, well, never mind, actually. I would have thought... Okay. No, because I was about to say, like, couldn't you get something, like, shaped like a coin? Like, you could get, like, a piece of paper, fold it up, then cut out the fold in the shape of a coin. That way you could just shove it in, it would give you gas. But then I realized, oh, there's probably someone taking money out for the whatever company. Oh well. Anyways. What else can we look at? Is there anything else we need to look at? Well, there's a bunch of stuff, but is there anything else we actively need to look at? 2, okay. There's Briar Road, Garrett Up's room, and the prison. Okay. So there's still some stuff in here we need to find. I guess let's keep looking. Look at these extravagant, bright costumes. Somehow, they look out of place in this room, with its grim, shady goings-on. This one looks like a king's attire. A king? I've always dreamt of being a king. Oh, I think you'd be more suited to a feudal lord, a daimyo or such like. With a Chon mage top knot? Every Japanese man wishes he had a Chon mage. Oh, you look wonderful with one. And you already have the sword. Can you imagine what would happen if I walked around the streets of London with a Chon mage and a sword? What is this? There's not much on these shelves, is there? Just this wine glass and bottle. And both of them are cracked. Yes, not much use, are they? What's the matter? Oh, I was just reminded of the Reaper, that's all. Prosecutor Lord Van Zeeks? Yes, he's so reckless with his wine glasses. I was thinking it's a waste and he should donate some to the needy. You can suggest it next time we meet. Oh yeah, he just throws it somewhere. I guess let's look at the stage. This is some sort of makeshift stage, I think, isn't it? Where does the audience sit, though, for the nightly Shakespeare performances? Actors aspiring to the great stage must practice their art, Mr. Naruhodo, with or without an audience. In fact, on a related note, perhaps you should set up a mock bench for the defense in your office. What? Then you could practice your art every single day. I'll think about it, if you promise to don a beard and play the role of a judge. Well, if that would help you achieve your goal. This I have to see. Alright, let's look at the body. Oh, the poor man, so young to die. Do you suppose it was a very painful death, being poisoned as he was? I don't know. All we can do now is hope that he'll be reborn to a better life. Yes, I suppose you're right. I wonder... Do you think that putting hands together in a Japanese prayer will help a British soul? Sorry? I made sure I had a reference at the ready for such an occasion as this, actually. This book is entitled The Beginner's Guide to Praying for the Departed, the British Way. I'll just reread it now. One moment. There's quite a spine on that book, isn't there? Oh, the teacup. One of the teacups that Mr. Shamsbury and his guests drank from last night. But don't go drinking from them, Mr. Naruhodo. There's a bit of poison inside. I'm not planning on drinking any. Don't worry. Anyway, the cups are both empty. That's true. So, one was Mr. Shamsbury's, and the other must be the cup that Mr. Natsume was drinking from. But Soseki-san wasn't poisoned, of course. Perhaps we should take these so we can examine them in more detail later. Alright. Oh, something's happening. Oh, looks like you're having a good snoop around, huh? Inspector Gregson! Josh up. Back so soon? After I threw a little Japanese fella in the clink, I went and reported this to the investigation division. In 5 minutes' time, this place will be cordoned off by the yard. Oh, I see. Well, we'd better be leaving then. Poor Mr. Nussman must be feeling very low, being back in a cell again so soon. I'm sure we should probably go and... What's wrong, Mr. Naruhodo? Out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. Now, how soundeth the next part? It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Indeed, oh happy day! What? Walking Dead! A fella isn't dead at all? What was that nonsense he was saying, though? That was from Hamlet? I think... Yes, it was from William Shakespeare's Macbeth. Oh, okay. That's why I felt like I heard it before. A soliloquy from Act 5, Scene 5. I'm sorry. Hold up. It's time to see this in action. Macbeth, Act 5, Scene 5. Let me read this again. I need to actually see if that's true. Where was it? No. Ah, here it is. Out, brief candle. Yeah, it was. I think. Here it is, onto... And out, the... Yeah. Huh. Oh. Wow, yeah, that's the exact line. 23 through 28. Wow. I actually did not know that. That's actually really cool. Sorry, I'm the type of person that wants to make sure of those things. Shakespeare. So it was that the victim, Mr. William Shakespeare, came back to life. If the man had indeed been poisoned, it transpired that it hadn't killed him. He was taken by emergency carriage to a nearby hospital for treatment. And Inspector Gregson evicted us from the scene of the crime. Whatever that now was. Ugh. 21st of February, Briar Road. Whatever do you think will happen now? Good question. What a strange situation for Mr. Natsume. Arrested for murder, but then the victim comes back to life. I think perhaps the victim was never dead in the first place. It seems likely that Mr. Shakespeare did consume poison as we deduced. But was it an accident, attempted suicide, or attempted murder? Until the truth can be established, I imagine the police will keep Mr. Natsume in custody. I suppose so. Let us hope it doesn't come to anything more than a night in the cells. Oh, what's this? Yeah, a peeping Tom? What's that man doing over there? It looks like he's trying to see into Soseki-san's lodgings. Is something wrong, Mr. Naruhodo? Excuse me? Could we have a word? He just ran off. I feel I've seen that man somewhere before. Where was it? I do too, but I don't remember. Whatever. Here's those bars of soap that were here. With the exception of the top floor, or where Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb live, all the windows are bricked up. Yes, that's because of an old window tax that was charged on the number of windows a property had. In order to pay the less tax, the poorer members of society filled in many of their windows. But the tax has simply been abolished, hasn't it? So the windows could all be opened up again, surely? Unfortunately, it would appear that the residents of this district can't afford to pay to have the work done. Yes, that is a sad state of affairs. Especially for people like poor Mr. Natsume, who have to live all cooped up in a windowless room. I suppose that's the price you pay for living in very cheap accommodation. It all seems rather pointless when you put it like that. Oh, alright. Whose bike is this? You can't use it. There always seems to be a bicycle outside the Garrideb residence. I heard that bicycles are extremely popular all over Great Britain at the moment, in fact. That one seems very warped, though. Especially the front wheel. Is that to make it more of a challenge to ride, do you think? No, I'm afraid that may be a result of the rider's incompetence. For the front wheel to be so badly warped, I'm afraid the rider may have been similarly afflicted. Then, there's a good chance Mr. Natsume has been practicing on this bicycle, I think. Oh dear, I fear you may be right. Anyway, I don't think there's anything to look at around here. Let us head into... Let's see. They're still questioning Natsume, so let's talk to Mr. Garrideb. See if I can remember his voice. "21st of February, the Garrideb's room. Here we are again. The eccentric landlord's eccentric top-floor abode. We're here because Mr. Garrett is the one who discovered the incident this morning. Don't forget.
Ah, you chaps, huh?
Yes. Good morning, sir.
Thank you for your cooperation in court yesterday.
It was quite a trial. As much for Mr. Garrett as anyone, really.
Came straight back here after all that business at the Bailey yesterday. Didn't expect to wake up to more bally nonsense this morning.
I wonder if you wouldn't mind telling us exactly what happened, Mr. Garrett?
Yes, I suppose you'd like to know all about that Judd loss of a doctor chopped out in the ground floor room.
Those were exactly Inspector Gregson's words, weren't they? Oh! He's getting up. Actually well, I guess the slap mark must have faded, but he's actually having a proper conversation. It must have been a real shock for you this morning. I hear that you discovered what had happened.
Oh, well, that old blessed Dr. Chap rises at 5 o'clock sharp every morning without fail. But at 5:30 this morning, he still hadn't lit the gas. So I went down and knocked on his door, but no bally answer.
And that's when you broke into his room by kicking down the door?
Well, I called on that rum-looking Japanese chap to do the grunt work, of course.
Wasn't it a little premature to kick the door down? The man could have just overslept by half an hour. That's very true, Mr. Naruhodo. If 30 minutes oversleeping warranted such behavior, I'd have to kick your door down every morning.
Well, you know, better to be safe than sorry and all that.
Is it just me, or is he avoiding our gaze now all of a sudden? Yeah? So the man oversleeps and you kick his door. Okay. Except that it was a sorry situation indeed that you found on the far side of the door. The victim's name was Mr. Shamspeare, I believe? Is that right?
Yes, William Shamspeare. Took the ground floor room 3 months ago now.
And how would you describe him?
In a word, destitute.
Destitute?
Well, let's face it, the only redeeming feature of that room is the cheap rent. Anyone wanting to live in a place like that is either broke or has a bally screw loose.
So hard to choose which category Suseki-san would fall into. Mr. Naruhodo, that's a little rude.
He was doing research as well.
Research? Into what?
Shakespeare, of course. Shakespeare. Read a few plays of the old bard myself, you know. Romeo and Hamlet and all that.
Yes, William Shakespeare is England's most highly regarded classical playwright and author. He's known as Sao in Japanese, as you know, and many of his works have already been translated. It seems incredible that Shakespeare was shortened to Sao, though. Someone was too heavy-handed there. There were a lot of costumes in the victim's room, actually, weren't there? Of course, Mr. Natsume is a scholar of English literature as well. I imagine he and Mr. Shamspeare would have had much in common.
Shakespeare interpretation disagreement leads to shocking murder.
Let's hope it's not that.
Mr. Naruhodo, really, how rude.
After Mr. Natsume's trial yesterday, you came straight back here, I believe, didn't you? Did you notice anything strange between then and this morning?
Well now, must have been about 6 in the evening by the time I got home. Snow was coming down rather heavily, as I remember, and it was completely dark already. That failed Dr. Chap was out at the time.
Mr. Garrett noticed that there was no light from his room or something, I suppose.
Couldn't summon the energy for anything much, so I just sat in front of the fire up here. It was after 8 before Shamspeare got back. and the chap was up until past 1 in the morning, I'll have you know. Spilled his medicine some time after that. I was asleep by then, so I'm rather in the dark there.
Well, thank you. That was very illuminating. Is everything alright, Mr. Sato? Well, I was just thinking. It's a little strange, that's all. Mr. Garrett, you were up here in your room all evening, if I've understood correctly.
Not a big fan of stairs. Not with this blasted leg.
Then, how is it that you seem to know? The precise movements of your tenant on the ground floor, I mean. That's a very good point. I can't imagine that you could hear noises from the ground floor all the way up here.
Does this old man like to spy on its tenants? Is that it? I say! I know what you're thinking, and it's a bally outrage. I'm ex-military, don't you know? I don't go around spying on my tenants. Why would I?
Then, how did you know, Mr. Garrett?
It's the gas woman! The gas tells me everything!
The gas? What? What on earth do you mean, sir? How can the gas tell you anything, let alone everything?
Well, as you're probably aware, the gas is supplied to the building by pipes.
Yes, I'd more or less worked that out. Every room in the building is connected by a single pipe to the gas main outside, and the gas company supplies gas to the properties via the main. Yes, I understand that too.
Let me see if I can explain. Let's say I was to light the gas lamps up here. What do you suppose would happen?
Well, obviously the room would get brighter.
Exactly. But at the same time, the lights in all the other rooms of the house would dim for a moment.
What? They dim? Why? Because everyone shares the same gas. So if everyone's on the same line. In other words, if you light the gas things up here, it'll take power from the rest of them, right? Perhaps it's because when you light a gas lamp, it briefly uses more gas than usual, and that reduces the amount of gas in the pipe for other lamps that are connected to it. Yes, that's what I just said. That might explain why the other lamps dim momentarily, mightn't it? Yes, of course, because everything's connected to a single supply pipe. Is that supposed to happen, though? It sounds rather undesirable.
Jolly good point. The fact is, the gas company's pipes in these pots are utterly hopeless, long worn out, and barely got any gas in them to start with. Opposite's also true, though. Extinguish the lamps up here, and they grow brighter in the rest of the house.
Ah, right, I see. So by watching the flickering of the lamps in one room, you can determine what's happening elsewhere.
You've got it.
Oh, of course. Because when people come back home in the evening, and before they go to sleep at night, what they're guaranteed to do is either light or put out their lamps and fires. Clever.
In point of fact, the room on the ground floor and the one above it use slightly different amounts of gas. By watching the lights in here closely, I can work out exactly what's going on in the whole house.
Gosh, that's fascinating, Mr. Garrett. Absolutely fascinating.
Ah, well, nothing to it really.
And I can't really see that it's going to help us with the case either. What I'd like to know is why Mr. Garrett is so interested in what his tenants are up to in the first place. I feel like there's more to it than idle curiosity. Well, we've done as much investigating here as we can, I think. Perhaps we ought to go to the prison and speak with Mr. Natsume again. A good idea. And we'll do that next time, because frankly, we're like 50 minutes in and I'm starting to feel a bit tired. Anyways, I guess with that being said, let's save this in 5, because we're already done with this trial here. There it is. So, yeah. We've done a lot. we investigated the scene, found out that apparently the dead man in question isn't exactly a dead man, and what else did we do? We talked to Mr. Garrett for a little. Next time, we're gonna go visit Mr. Natsume, and what happens next after that? I don't know, but we'll see Mr. Natsume, tell him that the guy isn't actually dead, and see where things go from here. So, with that being said, I will see you all in the next video.